Good evening and welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 130. I'm Ron.
I'm Shane.
And we're here to talk slot cars. Again, welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 130. The Valentine's episode. So everybody needs to remember their significant other in their life this weekend. Don't get in trouble. Stay out of trouble.
I'm wearing a red shirt, but...
Okay, can't see it. Find us on YouTube, Slot Racers, the channel, 130 episodes, along with some special episodes and some how-to videos. Find us on Facebook, Between the Lanes is the page. Race results. We got race results from the last 2 weeks because last week we had some technical difficulties, which everything was in queue to show, but for some reason it wouldn't do it. So, okay, so this is 2 weeks ago, and we put this on last week's show, but I'm just going to do them. I'm just going to go through the whole thing. So, Gator Retro Racing Region was at P1 Raceway. Coops, the winner was Danny Zona. Brian Ambrose was second. Marcus Ramos was third. And then in the stock car class, Danny Zona was the winner. Marcus was second. Ed Hoffman third. And then Danny Zona pulled off the sweep by winning Can-Am. Jeff Bonanno was second. Terry Tawney in third. Pin Jersey was at Trains and Lanes. Xfinity, Jerry Herbert Jr. was the winner. George Russell second. Bill Gearhart was third. And then in the Cup class, Randy Cole was the winner. George Russell second. Jerry Herbert Jr. was third in that. Midwest Spec Series was at Mid-America Bloomington. In the Dirt Late Models, Toby Kinnig was the winner. Randy Lynn second. Jason Plummer third. Legends, Jason Plummer was the winner. Toby Kindig was second. Randy Lynn was third in that as well. Spec Indy, Toby Kindig was the winner. Randy Lynn second. John Vincent third. Phoenix GTP, Toby Kindig was the winner. Jason Plummer second. Dave Fugate was third. And then was the Midwest Flat Track Series at Mid-America Naperville. In the Open 12 race, Dale Light was the winner. Cato was second. Chuck Gambo was third. There was no podium pictures. B Production, Gary Gaspard was the winner. Cato second. Chuck Gambo third again. JRL. Oh, see, here's. Okay. JRL. Chuck Gambo. It kind of skipped a couple pictures here on me. So Chuck Gambo was the winner. Gary Gaspard second. Ezra Vosberg was third. And then in the Enduro class, Chuck Gambo was the winner. Ezra was second, and Cato was third. Then the BRS was at HMS. Ron Hirschman was your Can-Am winner. Second was Bud Bardos. Third was Jeremy Wyatt. In F1, Bud Bardos was the winner. Ron Hirschman was second, and Jeremy Wyatt was third. So same podium, both classes. Just a flip-flop between myself and Bud in the two classes. Ohio Oval Series was the HMS on Sunday following the BRS race. In the IndyCar class, Denny Murray was the winner. Grant Sams second. Elmo was third. In the 4-inch class, Ron Hirschman was the winner. Chris Earnhardt second. Grant Sams was third. And in Dirt Late Model, Ron Hirschman was the winner. Denny Murray was second. And Kirby McLennan was third. Now, last week, we start with last week. So Mid-South was at Archdale. In the 4-inch stock car class, Walker McNulty was the winner. Timmy Bottoms was second. Matt Ashby was third. And then in GTP, Carl Burrow, Big Money, was your winner. Bobby Beecham was second, and Timmy Bottoms third. In the scale NASCAR class, Timmy Bottoms was your winner. Walker was second, and Trey Foster was third. And then in LMP, Bobby Beechman was your winner. Matt Ashby second, and Timmy Bottoms third. And I guess they must have had an overall Iron Man or Superman trophy because Timmy's holding a special beast trophy. So
yeah, they kind of did like a point system, kind of like what we've done in the past with the Flexipalooza.
Right. Okay.
And he had the best results at the end, so he won the Archie, is what they call it.
Yeah, because he was on every podium. I mean, he was the only guy on every podium.
Yeah, he called me Friday because I was working. He was at the track Friday, I think at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Said he was getting his cars dialed in. I told him, well, pay it off.
Well, good job, Timmy Bottoms. Because I was like in the LMP race, I'm looking at the thing and it said "Bottom sucks." Like, I'm like, who the hell is that? You know, like.
Yeah.
And I looked at the picture and there was Timmy. So, congratulations, Timmy. Good job. Mid-American Hard Body Enduro race was at Mid-America Naperville last weekend. No podium pictures, but we have the pictures of the winning cars. So the winning team with 1,762 laps was Team Voodoo, which is Ken and Neil Eisler. And then second was Team Slot Sport with 1,752 laps, which was 10 laps behind. Brian Meharry, John Wrench, and Matt Newman made up the Slot Sport team. And the third place was Team Soul, which with they had 1,749. So they were like 3 laps out of second and 13 laps out of the win. So Team Soul was Rick Stagan, Eugene Richardson, Dick Soul, and Mike Lanino. So, yeah, Roger said that race was really good because they ran on the figure 8, and then they I forget what track they finished. I guess they finished on the LTD, but the race was super close after both tracks. Also, last Sunday was the Daytona 500 at Fast Alley Raceway, Fremont, Ohio. Elmo was your winner. Grant Sams was second. John Humberger was third. And then the Central Illinois Slot Series was at Whiskers over in Gladstone, Illinois. And I don't have a podium picture of the FCR hard body race, but that was won by Jeff Goldberg. Randy Lynn was second. Toby Kindig was third. And the picture we're looking at is the podium for the B&E hard body portion. Jeff Strauss was the winner. Dave Fugate second. Kurt Vincent was third. And then overall, it was Jeff Strauss, Jeff Goldberg, and Dave Fugate. And Jeff were on the same lap at the end. And I think Dave Fugate was 1 lap behind. That was a pretty good hard body race. In Can-Am, Ron Hirschman was the winner. Joe Ligori was second, and Toby Kindig was third. And I guess before I do the rest of the races, so we had 16, 17 entries in each of Can-Am, 4.5 in LMP. So instead of qualifying and running 2 mains, we just rolled a dice after everybody teched in. Everybody rolled a dice. Odds were in one race, evens were in the other race. And then we rolled the dice for which race went first. And so in the Can-Am class, Joe and Toby finished on the same lap. Toby was ahead of Joe, but with the lines in the track for the segments or sections, Joe was actually ahead of him that way. So Joe won the B main, and Toby was second, even though Toby's car was ahead of Joe's. And then they wound up finishing second and third overall. So then we raced 4.5-inch stock cars, 2 mains. Joe Ligori was the winner. Ron Hirschman was second, and Jeff Strauss was third. And then we ran LMP, and LMP was a good one because in the first race, going in the last 2, you had Alex Juncos, Kurt Vincent, and Joe Ligori on the same lap. And Alex was out front pretty good, and then he came off in the donut, and those 2 caught up to him. And Alex was being really super cautious, and Kurt was pulling away from Joe and reeling in Alex, and then Kurt got tangled up in a big deal at the bottom of the straightaway, and Alex pulled away. But at the end, those 3 were all on the same lap too, so it was a pretty good race. So
yeah, I think some of the results I'm seeing there was like a 3-way tie or something like that.
Yeah, so the overall top 3 was Ron Hirschman, the winner, Alex Junko second, Kurt Vincent was third. And then this SCRA was in action at Buena Park on the King track. F1 was won by Dale Yamashita, Brian Warmack second, Mil Conroy third. And then in Can-Am, Brian Warmack was the winner. Dale Yamashita was second, and Tori Anderson was third. Good seeing Tori. It's been a while since I've seen a photo of him on a podium in a long time, so it's good to see Tori there. So, and then Florida Slot Car Series was at Fast Eddie's in Pinellas Park, Florida. NASCAR on the Oval, James Merriman was the winner. Ralph Thorne was second. And Roger Hubery was third. And then in LMP on the Hill Climb, Roger was the winner. Terry Tawney was second. Marcus Ramos was third. And GTP on the Hill Climb, Brian Ambrose, I think he set a new track record qualifying, and I think he set a new lap record. But Brian Ambrose was the winner in GTP. Terry Tawney was second, and Roger Hubery was third. And in the no pitchers, Retro East 2 weeks ago was at Speed Zone, New Jersey. In the GTC Coupe class, Matt Bruce was the winner. Jimmy Williams second. Pat Skaggs was third. And then in Can-Am, Edsel was the winner. Keith Libby was second, and Matt Bruce was third. And winner, chicken dinner.
Sunday.
Okay, so this Sunday, Valentine's weekend, we got the Daytona 500 race at Dallas Slot Cars. We have Mad Fast. No, is Mad Fast this weekend?
Yes.
Okay, where are they at?
They are at Turn and Burn.
Mad Fast this weekend at Turn and Burn. We
New
got
location.
okay. We got Yuska at Thaser in South Bend, and we at Mark's Model World, Canton, Ohio, is Cindy McMaster's benefit race, and you can still get and on some of the raffles. They've had a lot of stuff donated, and they're going to do raffles. And even if you're not going to be at the race, you can get a hold of William Fulmer on Facebook, and you can purchase raffle tickets for some of the cool stuff, and he will take care of you. And then next weekend, the 22nd, is the Flexi Fest West out in Rockland, California at Fast Tracks, home of the 2020 scale nets. Hard bodies are at Thaser, and the Ohio Challenge Cup is at Mark's Model World. And on Sunday, Penn Jersey's at the Race Place. And then the weekend of the 28th, last weekend of this month, Penn, Ohio's at Mark's Model World. And the East Coast Flexi Series is at Fast Tracks in Bally, Pennsylvania. So, I thought there was something in between, but there wasn't. Okay, so this week we have a giveaway. And what you're looking at is a Motorbox. These are made by Guy Elmo Valence. He's on Facebook. If you see these and you're interested in buying them, they're like an aluminum case, and they open up kind of like so, and then there's a foam insert, and these hold, what is it, 10 motors? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Lucky number 13, they hold 13 motors, and they'll hold C cans, D cans, and the mini motors. So we'll be giving one of those away, and thank you to Elmo for that. And I've got 2 more of these because he was going to have me give some of these away a long time ago. He gave me 2 of them to give away, and then he was like, don't give them away because I don't know if I'm going to make these or not. And I put them up somewhere here, and I haven't found them yet, but I really haven't looked for them. So when I find them, and I will find them before next week's show, we're going to be giving away one of these cool Elmo motor boxes. We'll give one away each week for the next 2 weeks after today. So there you go. And then
There you go.
I guess that's all I've got for right now. You know what? Let's just go ahead and pick a winner here.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
So the lucky winner of the Elmo Motor Box, and you have to contact me, Ron Hirschman, Between the Lanes. You have to contact me because I'm going to be mailing it to you. So the winner of tonight's Motor Box is Paul Underwood. Paul Underwood is the winner of the Elmo Motor Box. So Paul Underwood, you get a hold of me, and we will get this taken care of. And we'll get it mailed right out to you. So all I got, and tonight's hot topic, being you suggested it, Shane, it's going to be I said, being you suggested this hot topic for this week's show, The hot
Yeah,
topic is track calls.
track calls.
So how this started was, I think it was Charles Eldridge, right, that posted about
That is correct. Charles
Slot-
Edwards.
slot car race on slot car race talk on Facebook. He I don't remember what the original question was, but I you know,
I can read it if you want me to.
sure, why don't you read it, because this is your subject.
Yeah, I got to pull it up though.
Okay,
So bear with me.
you're doing fine.
I make so much doing this anyway, so
I know, filthy rich. Filthy rich.
I am. I'm telling you. So, all right. That's not it.
So while you're doing that, I'm gonna
Okay,
do this.
here we go.
All right.
So the question was, this is Charles, and I remember, folks, public school, so now that that's out of the way. Okay, hope everyone is well. I would like to start a topic discussion. It's about shutting off the track during a race for a deslotted car. I understand if the car is off the track or a turn marshal is overwhelmed with more than 2 cars in various designated areas depending on what track you're at. But I don't believe in is shutting the track off every time a single car comes off, whether it's a road course or an oval. For instance, there's a group of racers racing and there's one guy or 2 guys that are clearly way faster than the other people in the field, so they get around the track quickly, but they fall off often. The track goes off, never losing an inch. Meanwhile, a not so fast guy running longer lap times never gets a chance to pass him when he falls off because the power goes off. So why is it okay to shut the track off for someone who chronically falls off, but punish the man who stays in the slot? Sorry if this is inappropriate. Oh, that's referring to the page, so I don't necessarily have to read that.
Okay. And there was like what, 200 and some comments, I think.
We are now up to 205
Okay.
comments. There are various opinions and various replies, opinions, however you want to say it.
Okay, so before we start discussing this, I'm like, I didn't comment because you were like topic for the show, so I'm just like, we'll talk about it on the show, but comments are gold. I mean, I love reading comments. Like, comments are golden. I mean, it's just pure gold in some of the comments. As far, I mean, I'm not knocking any. I mean, there's good comments, there's bad comments, there's funny comments. I mean, it's just like,
there's non-related comments.
Yeah, I get a lot of amusement, entertainment out of comments, not just on slot racing topics. Okay,
right.
but you know, like we have a local news station, and they post a lot of stuff. And wow, does it? Whew, it brings some of the nuts out of the woodwork in some of those comments. It's just kind of funny. So,
right.
Yeah, comments are gold. So, okay, you can start this one off.
My opinion, again, solely my opinion, the driver should only call panel if his car obviously comes off in the panel.
Okay, so let's define panel. In the straightaway in front of the driver's panel.
Correct.
Okay.
We call that panel. That is not a track call. I know some races I've been to, guys, track, and I tried to tell them it's not a track call, that's a panel. You know? But I guess it's just easier for them to call track.
Well, okay, so so I'm going to interject here. So I think if a car comes off in the straightaway, it's kind of unmarshable if there's no straightaway marshals. So I don't think. I mean, I think calling track is okay because it technically is a track call if it's an unmarshable car. So that's my 2 cents.
No, I mean, yeah.
It's just when those guys were saying panel, I'm thinking you mean straightaway because.
Right.
So. Okay, go on.
Gotcha. So you got a panel, track, whichever you want to call it. Obviously, if there's a braid up or a braid issue.
Sure.
You know, if your car's not counting or you don't have power on your lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think if other than that, I don't really see the need to cut the power off unless there's a rider.
Right.
You know, obviously there's a rider. I don't think I've mentioned that one.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't think there should really be any other reason for the track to come off.
Right.
You know, I've seen comments saying, oh, well, if a term marshal is overwhelmed, the term marshal can yell track. I don't necessarily agree with that one either, because it's like, okay, you know, the term marshal has two hands. There are some that race with us that are handicapped. I mean,
Right.
no disrespect by this, but you still have one hand, and as a racer, you make a mental note before the race, okay, I need to watch that turn. You know, we have a handicapped term marshal, or I've been to races before where knowing that a term marshal is handicapped, they've substituted or put him in a non-active, you know, a turn is not as active.
Right.
You know, so it's like, okay, so you know, the whole, if a term marshal is overwhelmed, well, slow down.
Right.
You know, if your lane's clear, go through, proceed, you know.
Right. Okay, so when I started racing, we didn't know what track calls were. Like, you know, I raced just local. We had 2 tracks in town. We didn't have track calls. We didn't know what track calls were. We didn't even know what a USRA rule book was. I mean, like, again, you know, the raceway opened, and if the owner had questions, they would ask the distributor questions, like, what do we do in this case, or what do we do with this case? Because there was no other local raceways. There had been no racing around for 10 years or 15 years. And then, you know, guys, they stayed away for that time because there was no tracks to race at. So it wasn't like they were going racing elsewhere and learning how things evolved over time. So, you know, we didn't know what track calls were. And then I went to my first out-of-town race like 3 months after I started racing locally. And, you know, it's a wing car race, tri-state USRA race. And no, I take that back. It was a different race, but they were run under USRA rules. And, you know, there's like these track calls. Like, what are these track calls for? You know, like, and most of them was in the straightaway. And, you know, my car, I mean, my track calls in the straightaway were usually after I hit a car because they didn't shut the track off fast enough. And the track call was to pick up pieces of my car because I destroyed my car. So no hard feelings, but that's just the way it went down. So, but yeah, there was track calls. And it's like, okay, so you go back home, and I don't ever remember saying we should have track calls for this kind of stuff. You know, like, it's just the way we raced, and that's the way we raced. And I don't remember really many guys coming off in the straightaway and stuff like that anyway. So, and we never really had braid issues or track issues. So there was never any, I mean, I can remember one time somebody's car it quit running, and, you know, it's like they didn't shut the track off. People are picking up the car, looking at it, and then putting it back in, and it won't go. And then they shut the track off out of a courtesy thing. And then it's like, oh, you got a broken lead wire. So then they turn the track back on, and we started the race. So, so then, you know, a few months down the road, there was other guys that went out of town to other races, and they came back and was trying to, like, you know, they're yelling track. You know, it's like, you know, I know what they're yelling track for, but it's like, it's not a track call. Like, we don't do that. So, but eventually over time, we started having track calls locally. So, because we had more guys go out and do some USRA races. So anyway, so, you know, track calls were always for, and according to the USRA rule book, like you mentioned earlier, unmarshable car, track failure, braid failure, lap counter failure. Like, I mean, cars.
I mean, you brought up another one. If a car has parts because it's broke.
Yeah.
You know,
right. Yeah.
Sometimes I mentioned that one. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that'd be like a debris call, but yeah, it was a track call to get the parts off the track. So,
you know, and then there was comments of, oh, if the car's on the floor, that's not a track call.
Right. So,
you know?
so for a long, yeah, like, so for a long time, I mean, I go back to when Rider was not a track call. Like, right, you just yell Rider, and hopefully you yell it quick enough, and whoever is driving on the lane that your car is on, hopefully they let up so a marshal can get the car off the track. But
they get the memo quick enough.
Yeah, but usually and then, like the pro guys, the pro guys were just like, you get on my lane, I'm taking you in. I mean,
Right.
it's just the way it was, it was kind of cutthroat, but, most rider calls never ended up in a good deal. It usually was a broken car, and but that's the way it was. That was just the rules. I mean, it's like if you're out golfing and you hit the ball in the woods, it's not like, okay, well, redo, it's like, no, you got to go knock it out of the woods. It's part of the game.
Right.
So anyway, race forever. And, we all know what the track calls are. And then when we started the Parma Challenge Cup series, I don't think it was immediately, but over time, and I was kind of in charge of that deal, I decided that riders should be track calls, because most guys, half the guys won't let you off, and the other half of the wall banging riders was because guys couldn't react fast enough. And I always thought that, it's a shame that someone travels long distance to a race and they get their stuff torn up. So we made riders a track call. And then, a few years down the road, they voted in the USRA Scale Nats to do it. And then the wing car guys voted it in. And then I think it's pretty universal anymore that riders are track calls. Okay. And I'm not going to say that I originated that, but because there could have been something out there doing it before I ever did it. I didn't know it. But anyway, and it was just to try and help people save their equipment. And, nothing's worse than you're running your race, minding your own business, and somehow a marshal puts you in the wrong lane or knocks you into the wrong lane. Why should you suffer for that?
Right.
When that was a marshal's mistake? So, we just said, okay, riders are track calls. And I don't think that that's a bad rule. I never thought that was a bad rule.
Right.
There was a lot of people in USRA that did not like that because they were traditionalists and they didn't want to go away from riders being track calls because that was the game. But, everybody adapted over time. I mean, it was kind of like when we went from the old American lane rotation to the Australian lane rotation that we all know nowadays. There was people that didn't like that, but everybody started doing it, and it just became a new part of the game. So I pretty much for a long time would just go to series races or like national races, and everyone knew the track call deal. It's like unmarshable cars, and like if a car is on the floor but it's not under something, that's not a track call because the marshal can get it. Now, if a car comes off and flies across the room and winds up under the pit tables, that's a track call. But if a car just like goes over the wall and falls on the floor and it's sitting there at the marshal's feet, it's not a track call. So, like 8 cars off in the turn, not a track call. Like the power stays on. And if a marshal has 4 cars off in front of him and he's the only marshal in the top turn, well, guess what? It's not a track call. And I can remember like running the American Kings, and, under the bridge was the worst thing because a lot of guys didn't want to stick their hand up in there to get cars, that led to more cars being off under there. And again, wasn't a track call. So, I raced all that stuff forever. And then, I don't know, I went to a local race, and it's like every time a car falls off, track.
Yeah, and that.
Okay, and it's like, I can't do this. Like, I mean, like Charles said in his thing, I mean, if I can go out there and keep my car on and other guys can't, well, every time there's a track call, that penalizes the guys who can stay on and make laps because, again, part of the game, if you fall off, you're going to lose time. Now, how much time you lose depends on the marshal, depends on how many cars might be off. I mean, there's a lot of different circumstances. I mean, you could lose 5 laps real easy coming off all by yourself, depending if someone hits your car and then someone else runs into it. By the time the
And
marshal,
the size of the track.
right. And, a different subject, but a lot of the marshals make messes because no one wants to just pick the car up, actually pick it up and get it out of the way. Then
They slide it.
yeah, they want to slide it across the track or, okay, this car came off of red, it's on blue, I'm going to slide it across. Well, then 3 cars run into it, and the marshal caused the mess. So anyway, racing locally, and every time someone comes off, it's a track call.
Right.
And it's like, can't get my rhythm, and it's like, it just aggravated me because you get out there, you get going, and track call. And I used to have this little song I used to sing, one lap at a time. You're like, one lap at a time, blah, 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 blah. So, at some point I was like, you know what, I don't race local, and that's the biggest reason why I don't race local is because most places, and I don't know where this mentality or this habit, this bad, very, very bad habit came from, that every time someone comes off, it's a track call. And, but then when I sit and think about it, I can understand, if you've got a new guy that comes in and he comes off every other lap and you don't shut the track off, he just gets a bazillion laps down. He gets discouraged and he doesn't want to come back. Well, someone needs to work with that person and say, look, you need to slow down, or you need to figure out how to stay on so you don't lose all these laps. And, it's like, and then track calls kind of breed track calls. And like wing car racing, they want to run the cars so light, they have a track call. Well, then everybody's yelling, move my car back because it won't go through the glue without popping.
Right.
So it's like every time you have one track call in wing car racing, usually it multiplies into 5 more before everybody finally gets going again.
Right.
And I think someone made a comment, or I know, I was in a race one time, a 3-minute heat. A 3-minute heat actually took 10 minutes to run a 3-minute heat because there was so many track calls. And there was another race we were at, and I think in a 3-minute heat, we counted 95 track calls in a 3-minute heat.
There's races I've seen on Facebook where people go live.
Right.
And I count, and it's that was 20 track calls in one heat.
Yeah, or yeah, like I said, takes 10 minutes to run a 3-minute heat. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And yeah, I'm old school, I guess, and I know what track calls should be for and what they should not be for. Now, I don't really.
I'm like you. I don't do as much local racing as I used to.
Right.
Just because I don't know. You know what I mean? I go there honestly to have fun, and generally by the end of the night, I'm like, I don't know why I did that.
Right. So 3 weeks ago, I went out to the local track here and raced, and they raced Big Round Robin. And there was 9 of us, so then they put 3 sit-outs in the computer. Well, they put 3 ghosts in the computer, so that way we would have more than 2 marshals. I guess there was 10 guys, so they put in 2 ghosts. And I said, that's not going to work because there's going to be heats you have 2 marshals, and there's going to be heats you got 4 marshals.
Right.
Okay, because of the rotation and the sit-out. So I said, why don't you just run 5 and 5? It'll be way cleaner, and each race will have 5 turn marshals. And, they didn't really want to do that because it's going to take longer to do that. Okay, well, the way you're going to do it's going to take longer. So they ran it the normal way, and then the next week, we're going to qualify and split them into 2 races. And so in 2 weeks' time, the races are way cleaner. Guys are learning how to marshal. And the guys are running more laps totals because they've got their rhythm and they can keep it going. And, a big part of it, there's less cars on the track, too. Instead of having 8 cars, you've got 4 or 5 cars. But guys are actually running 2 minutes straight with no track calls. So they're learning how to race and run a rhythm and everything else. So that's the positive. It's like again, like last week at the CIS race, they don't qualify. Usually everything's a big round robin. And they qualified a race earlier this year and split them up. And, some guys didn't like the fact they qualified or whatever. So, I mean, if you got 16, 17 guys, not many people want to sit out for, 8 heats if you got 17 or nine heats if you got 17 guys. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right. Yeah.
So they decide, like, we're going to roll the dice and we're going to split the races up that way. And, we had 2 full races. I mean, some classes, one race was a round robin, the other one wasn't. Not a huge disadvantage or advantage to anybody, but, it beat running a 16-man or 17-man round robin. We were in 2 races. The marshals are in place for both races the whole time. And one of the thoughts was in doing that, which again, I'll explain, but it was explained that, well, if a guy was to break on white and then he sits out, he can work on his car for like 8 heats, and then he comes back in the race. Or if a guy breaks on green lane, he doesn't have all the time to work on his car because he's not sitting out. Well, first of all, if you're sitting out, your car needs to be turned in.
Right.
So no one can work on their cars during the sit-outs. That's the way it's supposed to be. And then you get your car back. You're coming in, heat ends, you're coming in, you go get your car, you work on it for your 2 minutes like everybody else is getting, and you resume the race. So, the whole thing about splitting the races is just making cleaner racing, less track calls. You got plenty of marshals. And, and I don't really have I guess maybe because I'm getting older, I don't know, but I think of a turn marshal, again, you've got experienced turn marshals and you have non-experienced turn marshals. So I think of a non-experienced guy has 4 cars off in front of him and he's the only marshal there and he wants to call track. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. But if there's 2 cars, you got 2 hands. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen track calls last weekend where there was 4 hands and 3 cars. It's like, why is that a track call? Because we've got 2 guys there.
Oh yeah. Or the best one I've seen is when there's a turn marshal standing there.
Right.
And a car comes off, and before the turn marshal can even move, the track's off.
Right. Oh, I know what you're saying. I've seen.
It's like, I don't understand.
Well, and see, another thing with all the track calls, and I know this to be a problem at a few tracks. Guys that race there, after a while, they start believing, and in some cases it's true. I'm not saying all the time, but they believe that certain people get track calls or better track calls than other people.
Right.
And
I think that's about anywhere you race.
So yeah, I mean, less track calls, less pissed off people as far as thinking there's some favoritism going on. So track calls are a necessary evil, but they can be abused very, very badly. And I mean, years ago I said, well, if you cause a track call, your car should go back to where it just passed through the counter, so you lose like if you're on a king track, let's say, and the lap counter is coming out of the bank, and you come off in the straightaway and cause a track call, then your car goes back to the bank past the lap counter. So you lost all that. I mean, you lost like 3/4 of a lap for causing a track call. But, then someone's got to run the car over, blah, blah, blah. It takes more time too. So,
yeah.
But in some of those comments, I think someone said, yeah, we have like a penalty zone the cars get moved back to.
I read that one, and then I heard like some people would like, all right, your first wreck, you would tear your lane change sticker in half, and the next one you tear it in half again. Then after that, your car just came off the track. So a lot of places years ago used to run what they call crash and burn. Like, so you start a heat, you fall off, you're done till that heat's over. Like, they don't put your car back on. Right.
Okay, and supposedly that teaches you to drive better, stay on better. Okay, I understand that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, the local track here 10 years ago, they ran 3 offs and you're out for the rest of the heat.
Gotcha.
And that was okay, but what sucked about it was, let's say you come off in a turn, and I let up, and I coast into you, and it like lifts my guide out of the slot.
Right.
I get charged with a come off, even though I attempted to let off, like I'm saying, like if I was 10 feet from you, you crash, I let off, but I'm saying I'm running a Hawk 7 motor or something that coasts, and I just coast into you with the power off, and I come out, well, I get charged with an off. That's
Yeah, you're getting penalized.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I ran one race locally like that in the first heat, coasted into 3 people. I was 50 laps down after the first heat.
Right.
Okay, and I was like ready to just put my car in the box because it's like, they ain't making that up. But I'm like, yeah, we'll go for it. Well, I wound up winning by 50 laps because the guy had me down. He was running into people, and so yeah, it kind of came out.
Played itself out.
It kind of did, but it kind of didn't. I mean, so I believe in, if you're going to do the 3 offs and you're out, then you can't count cars that are victims, innocent victims, I guess was what I would say. So
right.
So yeah, so track calls are just part of it. But again, shutting the track off every time somebody. And okay, I'll back up. If it's kids racing or something, a fun race, okay, maybe, birthday party or kids are racing. But for grown adults and experienced racers,
it's a sanctioned race.
Right. And experienced racers, experienced racers racing locally, you're going to, maybe you have a couple of new guys, but no, stop with the track calls off for every wreck. It's not fair to everybody. If it's fair to everybody, then do it, but it's really not, because a guy can go out there and keep his car on, he's getting penalized. But maybe some places feel like, well, if we have these track calls for all these other guys, then the faster guys don't kill them or, club them to death, I don't know.
Right.
You'd have to go to every raceway. And
it's just, it's like I was talking to someone today, I told them, racing and wrecking is part, that's just part of racing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you're entering a race, you're wanting a track call every time a car comes off because you're worried about wrecking your stuff, then why are you even racing it?
Right. Yeah, if you don't want your car, yeah. I mean, no one wants their car torn up, but it happens.
I mean, if it gets to the point where, okay, I'm coming off so much that I'm tearing your stuff up, then you need to tell that person, Shane, you're black flagged.
Right.
I mean, it's too much, dude.
Yeah, that's another subject, but black flagging needs to be used more than it ever is.
Right. And then, I was reading through some of the rule books, and it's just like, wow, that's a rule I didn't know. You can get penalized for calling track for a non-track related incident.
Correct.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, okay, so for example, if you were at the USRA Nats, let's say, and that's their rules. Say I went into the dead man, I came off, and there's a marshal there, and I yell track. Yes, I should be penalized 5 laps.
Yeah, I think the first one was a warning, and the second one,
it's
so
5.
on and so forth.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean,
I shouldn't say I'm normally quiet at the panel because if I'm mad about something or aggravated, I'm not. But when it comes, I don't even like yelling rider. You know what I mean?
Oof.
There's been times I've killed my car because they were like, "Why didn't you yell rider?" And it's just like, I don't like yelling anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And stuff. Over the years, I've gotten better, but it's like, I don't like yelling at the turn marshals because it's not their fault. I don't like, it's not a track call.
Right.
I try to say,
Right.
Like I said, I have my moments. I'm not saying I'm perfect because there's been plenty of times where I've been at the panel aggravated and going off about stuff. But
sure.
I didn't yell track,
Right. Yep.
So.
Well, yeah, track calls are just a necessary evil. And then and then part of the track call problem too is okay, so for example, this past weekend we had a car that launched in the bank. It was a track call, of course, because there's no marshal in the bank.
Right.
And the turn marshal picks the car up, and it's check my braid. And of course, the braid needed to be flattened, right? So everybody's cool with them flattening the guy's braid and putting it back in, because if you don't flatten his braid, he's going to pop out or
Right.
So, I mean, technically, the car should have been just handed the driver, and the power comes on. He has to fix his braid and puts his car in. But over the years, we've all become more lenient and allowed the marshals to straighten out the braid, put the car in, continue the race. So, guy, like I said, guy launches, just like clockwork. Track goes off, they pick up the car, the marshal flattens the braid, puts it in the slot, we start. A couple other incidents happen on the track, no track calls, just like, so a marshal, I don't remember what, anyway, I hit a car, I think it was being lifted off the track, or I coasted into it before they, I let off for it, but they didn't get up quick enough, and I kind of coasted, it kind of caved my roof in. So power comes on, and I'm running around there, and then there's another track call for something else, and my car's on a straightaway, so I pick it up and to like uncave my roof on my body. And another racer's like, no working on the cars during track call, no working on so I didn't realize he was like talking about me anyway. I just pop and put it back in, and then somebody says, well, he was yelling about you doing. I'm like, well, what's the difference? For example, maybe I should have just said, hey, Marshall, come here and flip my body out. You know what I mean? Like, I understand you're not supposed to work. I understand you're not supposed to work on your cars during a track call. I understand that, okay?
Right.
But if we're going to, like, let marshals fix braid or, straighten a body out on a car, whatever, during the track call, then why can't the racer just, if it's in front of him, pick it up, flip it, boom. Yeah. But anyway,
like you said, there's kind of a fine line. Okay, my car's over in the dead man, and Walker's standing over there. My body's caved in. Hey, Walker, you mind popping my body out?
Right.
Sure, no problem. You shouldn't hold up the race or do anything. You know what I mean?
I mean, the body being caved in really didn't affect the car performance. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, here, I'll just pop this out real quick.
Right. And then there's been times where it's happened, and there's been no track call, and I pull it in front of me, and I fix it right quick, put it back on, and I go.
Right. Yep. Right.
So, you know what I mean? I guess it's one of those fine lines. Is it really a track call? Is it not? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or is it working on their car? Is it not working on the car? Okay, this just happened. Should we fix the braid or should we not fix the braid? And it's like, if we don't fix the braid, how many more issues is that going to cause?
Right. Well, again, if this marshal had just put the car in the slot, the power came on, the car would have popped out immediately, and then, maybe two other cars would have hit it coming through the bank or something,
if it's in the bank, yeah.
Right. So.
I mean, some of it's common sense.
Right. Right.
And then there was the comment about, a good race director has a lot of control over that too. Because I've been at races where turn marshals are yelling track, drivers are yelling track, and the track's still going, and the race director's like, that's not a track call.
Right. Right. Yeah, we had that issue the other night because I was running the races at the local place, and there was so this guy comes off. Okay, so guy comes off right behind this other guy. I think they kind of banged, and the guy came off, and the guy stayed in, and somebody's yelling like, caution over here. This guy runs all the way around and runs into this car that he had knocked off, okay? And I'm like, well, that's not a track call. I mean, the guy ran into the car. Well, it knocked his body, front of the body, back past the guy flag, so the marshals got to straighten the body out. They put the car in the slot. It won't go. The marshal picks it up to see if the braid's messed up. Well, anyway, like in 10 seconds, this guy loses 5 laps. And the track owner said, shut the track off. So I shut the track off. And he agreed that what happened wasn't a track call, but just shut the track off because this guy's getting mad. Well, the guy just unclips, and he's like, oh, I just lost 5 laps. I'm done, blah, 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 blah. And he quit the race. But the deal was, it wasn't a track call, and it turned out his lead wire was broke anyway, okay? But he made this big scene, and it's like it technically wasn't a track call, but, you lost your time because of your fault of running all the way around the track back into this car.
Yeah.
And then if he would have stayed in the race, he wasn't gonna. he wasn't going to finish second. He wasn't going to finish fourth. He was running third. He was a solid third, unless somebody broke, and nobody was breaking. So, and they have okay. So this is another subject, but he pulled out. He was all mad, but then he calmed down that later, and everything was cool. But I had explained to him, like that wasn't a track call, okay?
Right.
Like, you come around and hit the car, and he was yelling track. It's like not a track call. So.
Right.
Have you ever raced where? Have you ever raced any place where they have, like, say you're running a race, like, and this guy was racing, and his lead wire broke. Well, the local rules allow him to call 5-minute call. I think they call it 5-minute call. So the track goes off, and he's got 5 minutes to fix his car. Well, everybody else waits for him to fix his car.
Right.
Okay. And I've raced years ago. I think down in Indianapolis they used to have this. I think they call it a 2-minute call. It's like if you're having if you hit somebody and you thought your chassis was bent, you could say, all right, 2 minutes, and you get to go over and fix your car and come back. Okay. And I always thought that was BS, but what was I going to say about that? But you only get.
You're asking me if I ever raced.
What was I going to say was, but each guy only gets a 2-minute call per race, so it's not like I hit somebody. Oh, my car's bent, 2 minutes, and then next heat. Well, I think my gear's loose, 2 minutes. You only get it one time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get it one freebie.
And that's kind of a local thing, and part of racing is making your car, prepping your car to finish the race. Like,
right.
I mean,
you got guys that spend all week to get ready for a race.
Right. I mean, you can work on your stuff all week and still have the same problem somebody else does. But, it's part of racing. I mean, if you're leading at Daytona and your rear end goes out in your car, they don't like red flag it for 20 minutes for you to go fix your car. I mean.
Right. Yeah. It's called racing for a reason.
Right. In order to finish first, you must first finish. I mean, that's
right. And it's like you said, like I've said, I think even George Kimber said it. It's all about preparation.
Right. Well, it's a big part of it. Big key part of it.
I mean, you got guys that put 5 minutes in it. And you got guys that put a whole week into it.
Yep. Right. Yep.
So.
All right. You got any more comments about track calls?
I'm sure we can have a 4-hour show about track calls, but it's just.
Well, I just think that track calls are a necessary evil. Shutting the track.
Local races.
It doesn't matter if it's
local fun week races, sure, track calls, whatever. Series races,
right?
Where, the competition is a little more elevated.
Right.
Stuff like that. No, there should not be track calls.
Right. And weekly races, I mean, if you want your guys to race better and get better, less track calls. You can't shut the track off every time somebody falls off.
You know what I mean? That's the other thing, too. Sometimes is if they race more locally than they do traveling, then they get in the habit. So whenever they go to a bigger race, they come off, the first thing they yell, track. It's like, no, dude, that's not how this works.
Right, yeah, I've seen that a million times. Guys you never seen race before come to a series race. They come off, they're yelling track. It's like, not a track call.
Yeah.
But I mean, when most places, series we run, there's usually like a little driver's meeting and all that's explained. Maybe not every race. I mean, if I'm running a series and we go to race and it's the same guys that race every month, I'm not going to have a little meeting, okay?
Right. Or
but
you look up there and it's the same traveling guys, and then the guys that are there, they know,
But if we got some new players in the house that's never experienced what they're getting ready to experience, then it gets explained.
Right.
So,
all right. I agree.
So that's all I got for tonight.
But good topic, Charles. Good topic. Hopefully we covered some things. You brought up some things. And
okay. I don't know.
Covered some things. And
well, maybe we just got some people thinking. That's the main thing here. So.
Right.
Secret word of the show there, Shane.
Track calls.
I knew it was going to be track calls.
Yeah, or we'll just say track.
Track.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So until next week, that'll be episode 131. Have a safe and happy weekend. If you are racing, good luck. Don't forget your wives, girlfriends, mothers, any important female in your life. It's Valentine's on Friday. Don't forget that.
Very important in order to race.
That's right. So until next week, ciao.